So, did you enjoy that? Did it make you laugh? Hilarious, right? Well, that was a leftover video I meant to put in my Puebla Tlaxcala storytime video, but I forgot. It was the first time that I'd ever heard the gas man in Mexico. And as you can tell, I was rolling. Anyway, welcome back to my channel. I'm Becky, the Slow Traveling Wanderer. As I mentioned in my last video of this new sub-series I'm calling Storytime, I decided to share my many Mexico and Mexico-related pics and videos from my many years of traveling to Mexico, and not only to Mexico, but I've traveled to other countries, and I generally go out and try to find, you know, the Mexican food or, you know, what they know about Mexico. So I have some of that to share as well. As I mentioned, I typically travel solo, so that makes for some interesting encounters, especially if you're open and friendly like me. I am from California. We're very friendly and quirky and are open to anything and everything. You know, you meet a lot of people along the way, and people from all walks of life, right? People who normally you probably wouldn't interact with in your own daily life, and sometimes get yourself into some interesting situations, and that's definitely what's happened to me. So I'll tell you all about it. If you like this content, give this video a like and consider subscribing. You know, the YouTube gods will then smile upon me, as I always say. All right, let's get into this. The story here begins in Playa del Carmen in 2014. It took me 2 years to return to Mexico after that terrible incident with the cricket in Puebla, Mexico. However, I decided to go back and praying that I wouldn't get sick again, and I didn't, because I didn't eat any crickets off of a random street vendor. So I'd never been to the Yucatan Peninsula. I figured it's quite touristy, definitely wouldn't get sick there. So I booked 5 days, a 5-day trip to check out Playa del Carmen. A couple of weeks before that, I'd been on some website, I can't even remember which one at this point, and looking to meet people, right? And I met this guy. He was a Spaniard who was living in Playa. And we chatted a bit. He seemed cool, and since I traveled throughout Spain and I knew the country well, I quizzed him a little bit just to make sure he was who he said he was. And he was cool. So we decided to meet up for drinks when I arrived. The day I arrived at the Cancun airport, I opted to take the coach bus from the airport to Playa. It's the cheapest way to get there. Anyway, I got on the bus, and moments later, a girl asked me in Spanish if the seat next to me was free, and I said yes. So she started asking me light questions, and I could tell she had a bit of an accent, but I couldn't pinpoint it. And we struck up a conversation. Well, it turns out she was French and from Bordeaux, France, and had married a Mexican guy that she was now divorcing. She spoke fluent Spanish. She had also previously lived a few years in Barcelona, and that was a city that I knew well. So we hit it off, right? Basically became friends. And she was traveling solo, and this was, you know, Playa was her last stop before she returned to France. She said she'd never gotten the chance to visit, despite having been in Mexico for like 4 years or something. So she decided to do it as a kind of a last stop before she headed back to Europe. So, well, let me tell you guys, it was a good thing that I had her as a wing woman, so to speak. I told her about the Spanish dude and asked her if she would come with me to meet him just to be safe, and she agreed. She was like, yeah, OMG. So this guy in his picture looked healthy, even handsome, I would argue, right? When I saw him in person, the guy was about 5'9" and couldn't weigh more than 125 pounds. His teeth were not in the greatest shape, and my first thought was, is he on drugs? Anyway, clearly nothing was happening between us, and on his side too. I mean, there wasn't any chemistry mutually, right? But he liked my friend, lols. She was kind of into it too, which I thought was hilarious. They were both very hippie-ish, European, and they were talking about these odd conspiracy theories, you know, and they lost me. I mean, they started having a conversation when we were at the bar, and I was just like, okay, I don't know where these two, you know, crawled out of, but whatever. But anyway, she wasn't even divorced yet. So I could tell that although she was attracted to him, she held back. Now, I will say that he proved to be harmless. He was a super nice guy. I went to the cenotes and got to know the cenotes for the first time because of him. He borrowed a truck from his brother. I'm not sure the guy even worked. I don't know. It was weird. Anyway, borrowed a truck, and I remember on our way to the cenotes, he had talked about having lived in the Colombian jungle with FARC members. It was nuts. But anyway, he took us to the cenotes. You know, we had a really good time that day. You know, we had a nice dinner, what have you, and drinks, and then we just kind of thanked him and went our separate ways. He was trying to get together with us again, because he wanted to, you know, get with my friend, but she was like, no, I think we should go out on our own. So we did. And we both just walked around Playa. You know, it was super hot. It was so hot. I've never experienced heat like that. And I'm from LA, where it gets really hot. I mean, we're part desert, but it was ridiculously hot. However, we both marveled at the turquoise waters. I mean, I've been to Spain and love the Mediterranean Sea for how warm it was. I'd never experienced a warm sea because I'm from LA and the Pacific is very cold. But the Mediterranean doesn't even begin to compare to Mexico and the Caribbean waters. They're very, very beautiful. So we randomly ran into a live samba band somewhere. We stayed, had some drinks, and danced Brazilian samba all night. That was a lot of fun. 2 years later, when I moved to London, I went to go visit her in Bordeaux. And she showed me around her beautiful town. You can see that here in the pictures. You know, and although the weather was nothing like Mexico, clearly it was very rainy and cold during that time. It was beautiful, beautiful. So we hung out, caught up. I got to see a new city in France. And, you know, we still stay in touch till this day from time to time on Facebook. I haven't been back to Europe because of coronavirus, but right before coronavirus, I was planning a trip back in last year in 2020. And we had talked about getting together, but unfortunately all that came to a crash because of COVID. But she's a darling. And I met her in Mexico. So that's the story. And that was a moment that I was no longer scared to travel to Mexico. And since then, I can't get enough. I'll leave it here. I hope you enjoyed this story, and we'll see you soon. Gracias, amigos, for your time. Bye.